During the earliest point in a Necromorph outbreak, before anyone may even realize what's going on, there is a short-lived stage that is designed to aid the Brethren Moons in their effort to conquer a species without that species really being fully aware of what's even happening. This stage does not require infectors to take over living hosts or for people to be forcibly turned, but instead relies on natural processes that already take place on the planet on a literal minute basis and will actually occur to each and every one of us that are watching this video. So it's really going to be a fun one today. The ending of our lives is as natural as the beginning, just with a whole lot more fear of the unknown. Utilizing the already expired who would not put up any sort of immunological or mental resistance, the signal bleeds through these areas and begins to turn all those previously living people into a toxic sludge of pulsating meat known as the corruption. So what are the consequences and the reason for the corruption in the first place if they have things like brutes running around? Well, in this episode, we are going to discuss just that. But first, this video is brought to you not by actually Raid Shadow Legends, but by our sponsor, Manscaped.com. They have the Perfect Package 2.0 that comes with the Mower 2.0 kit. So look, my base is like 95% male, and I don't know if you've seen my other channel, but your boy has got some chest hair. It's my Neanderthal DNA, but luckily this particular electric shaver exists. Seriously, I have never had a shaver not completely nick some sensitive skin before, and when it does, we all know that it's incredibly painful. So it's pretty apropos that the phrase, the perfect tools for your family jewels exists, because all I can say is, as far as the hair on your body is concerned, it's not really that great shaving it, but with this, it's not just sharp metal cutting the hair, so no skin gets between moving metal parts, but it'll still cut your hair anyways. So are you tired of me talking about body hair? Bet you are. As a subscriber, you'll get 25% savings on your order instantly, a new replacement blade refill with your lawnmower trimmer delivered to your door every 3 months, helping ensure you always have the most hygienic shave possible, which God we all need, exclusive access to the new Plow 2.0 safety razor with upgraded ergonomic design, not even available for purchase on the website yet, and for a limited time, subscribers get a free gift, the Shed Travel Bag. One of my personal favorites about this razor is that fully charged, it lasts up to 60 minutes, and I don't know a human on this planet that would need to shave themselves for that long, so maybe you can just shave chimps with the rest of the time that you have with the razor. Anyhow, get 20% off and free shipping from your Perfect Package 2.0 purchase when you use promo code Roanoke20 at manscaped.com. Alright, let's get back to some Dead Space. So first and foremost, what exactly is the corruption? Well, my dear viewer, it is nothing more than the remnants of your meat suits spread across the ground. While you may not be there, your cells are still technically living to some capacity, while also being infused with other cells from other people who are also as unlucky as you to befall the same fate. Take that nasty concoction and throw in the virulent bacteria that the Necromorph outbreak is known for, and congrats! You now have a meaty corridor that even Isaac in his advanced rig suit treads down carefully. The corruption will encrust itself upon surfaces that could in theory be important, such as elevators and doors, completely blocking off those areas for travel. It also has been known to completely cover the floors, which has a secondary effect of slowing down any humans with our awkward bipedal gait, whereas if we walked like penguins, we would probably do a lot better on the corruption. This either causes them to slow down, which allows Necromorphs to catch back up, or may cause them to completely slip, which also gives them the opportunity to catch back up, meaning that whenever this stuff begins to grow, it will have a propensity to grow faster and faster as it trips up more people in the process, leading to further growth through others' demise. Apart from the physical hazard the corruption poses, we can also see that the meat tends to slide and pulsate quite a bit. When it does, it has a habit of releasing liquids and gases into the atmosphere. So what exactly is it doing? Well, judging by the liquids arriving at the surface and then popping, this is more than likely the remnants of human eukaryotic cells, specifically probably cellular membranes. As noted by Dr. Cross, the corruption actually resembles a bacteria. This bacteria infects non-living cells through osmosis. And just as a refresher, osmosis is the flow of a solvent from an area of low solute concentration to an area of high solute concentration. So in this sense, the bacteria is the solvent, and it will be flowing towards, instead of like a cellular matrix, which has low solute concentration anyways, it would be flowing towards cells that have a higher solute concentration, which is how it begins to infect them. So they could permeate through any of the cellular membranes and then begin messing with the actual mechanics of the cell. This also suggests compatibility of, or for the cell, concerning its cellular markers on the surface, which is how the virulent bacteria may actually be able to latch on to the cell. And there's also the possibility that maybe after the cell is resuscitated, after the marker pours some energy into it, new cellular markers begin to form on the surface, which makes this process easier. Regardless, when this bacteria enters the cell of a human host, it would more than likely have a habit of bursting the cells in the process due to natural forces. Upon enough of these cells being destroyed, this liquid would make its way to the surface and explode out onto the corruption. This would lubricate the corruption, giving it its wet look and making it dangerous dangerous for any person attempting to run full force across it from Necromorphs. Now we get to the second effect that corruption has. Way back on my Weezer episode, apart from you guys telling me that it made it really hard to breathe because you're now manually breathing, I postulated an idea that the chemicals they were producing was actually methanol due to the effects it has on the central nervous system of people and the fact that it's completely and utterly poisonous. I stated that bacteria, which may be aerobic in nature, was producing methanol as a byproduct, utilizing the carbon and hydrogen of the body to create this gas, which isn't too far-fetched considering you're taking in O2 right now to breathe, and then you're actually breathing out CO2 and H2O. Under different processes, all the elements are there to form COH4, if you really think about it. This is the same bacteria that is working inside of the corruption, and it has the ability to change the environment as well, but it appears to be much less efficient in this process. What am I babbling about? Let's take a look at this environment changer and compare it to what we already do know with the Weezer. So let's take a good look at this thing. When it breathes, fresh air is brought in, run across the alveolar sacs of the lung, bacteria converts it into aerosolized methanol, and then it breathes back out. Through this process, fresher air is brought in and poisonous air is excreted. There is never really a chance for the methanol to build up internally, as the body is keeping the air moving and thus making the process more efficient. This is why hydroponics is completely toxic to all humans even for a short amount of time, as the concentration in gas is higher due to this process. The corruption has a much more passive form of this. When you take a stagnant layer on top producing this gas and taking out the oxygen, it is much less effective for a multitude of reasons, but mainly gas flow. Methanol is actually heavier than air. When these gas exit the corruption, they have a tendency to move across the ground and never actually permeate and mix with the air above. The problem here is that because methanol is already existing on the surface of the corruption, unless a person happens by and maybe stirs it up, oxygen will never reach the surface of the corruption. Pretty interesting, isn't it? But what would be the purpose of this? So you're a person, right? You're running away from something that just tore apart your entire crew and you are hauling butt. You hit the corruption and you trip and fall. Your face is now in a layer of gas, and on top of that, when humans fall, we have a tendency to gasp. You breathe in this poison, which has its all host of issues: decreased level of consciousness, poor coordination, vomiting, abdominal pain, blindness, blood acidosis. Basically, when you breathe in enough of this stuff, it completely takes down your body, rendering you unable to continue on, and just like that, the Necromorphs got you. But you may be sitting there and be like, well, I only breathed in like one breath, right? Yes, you did, but even with one breath full of this stuff, it still has the ability to affect the lungs and can have more long-term effects even if you get to fresh air. Basically, it may be short-term, but that could still throw you off your game enough to allow the Necromorphs to catch back up to you. So, the corruption is somewhat of an environment changer, that now we know, but what it's really known for is its ability to recombine DNA. To lend some credence to my hypothesis that human cells are actually being destroyed in the process for their basic cellular components, in Dead Space 2, when you reboard the Ishimura, you will find logs from doctors discussing the effects and state of the Ishimura when they found it. A sludge was discovered all over the ships that was presumed to be the crew, which, spoiler alert, it was the crew, and it contained human DNA, but structures would only begin to form in the presence of a marker. When the marker was destroyed on Aegis 7, everybody just sort of fell into this sludge, no matter what they were. But this would indicate that the sludge were remnants of cells and not just slabs of you being on the walls and floor. Due to this ability to recombine DNA, here's what makes it so dangerous: the repair mechanisms. So let me paint a picture for you. You have your bodies stacked in the morgue from natural processes or even from people beginning to lose their minds, resulting in them taking out themselves or even others around them. Outwardly, there's not really any indication that things are about to get much, much worse, besides there being a bunch of insane people in your colony. Oh, but things are about to get much more horrible for you. The same marker signal that is meeting resistance by your nervous system meets no resistance by the deceased nervous system. It begins to reanimate cells and also break them down. Sort of like warming up a frostbitten extremity, it can destroy the cells should you impart too much energy. In this case, it would be friction. The same concept of energy coursing through those once living cells, then somehow, somewhere, bacteria, perhaps even naturally occurring bacteria on humans, is also altered. It will change to serve the marker, much like any other animal, and in turn, this viral bacteria will result in meaty hallways and floors, but there are worse creatures that are born out of these areas. Upon enough mass being added, at least initially, and just as a side note, some have been noted as saying it grows as fast as they can cut it, which implies a ridiculous replication speed. It will then begin to form creatures out of this meat. In some cases, you would become a slasher by being exposed to the signal long enough post-mortem. Others, you can be changed by the infector getting a direct line into your brain. And with others, it appears as though the corruption has the ability to recombine human forms into slashers and different variants of creatures. This may be why we get such a wide range and variations among different types of necromorphs. But I still like my genetic-based idea personally. But then again, I'm probably a little biased. So imagine the corruption as a sort of glue or spawn point. Concerning glue, tripods, brutes, tormentors, hive minds, the corruption has the ability to fuse these bodies together by breaking down the barriers between the bodies and forming bridges. In fact, it's a lot like in the movie The Thing, where split face is formed. Originally, the barrier of skin was there to separate the two beings, but after the alien cell breaks down that barrier, they become one. Similar occurrence with the corruption. A spawn point grows the whole necromorph. The body is built and lays in wait until its grotesque form is done. Once this happens, it is able to exit the corruption and begin its attack. And if you've ever noticed, this is why you will typically find large groups of necromorphs around the corruption, which may also explain why the bodies are built in such horrendous ways, but why they also appear to be leaking this yellow bacteria in a lot of their forms. And here's how it happens, because I already know you're wondering about the biomass issue, because let's be honest, I'm gonna get some comments about this type of metabolism would definitely cook the corruption, and you're probably right. It definitely would. When cells metabolize anything, any energy, divide, it produces heat, and if you have too much of that, it cooks from the inside out. But this does solve the biomass problem. The corruption has been shown that it reproduces asexually. That means that really, as long as there is a source of energy, which is the marker, it can continue to grow and divide, much like the prokaryotic organisms on Earth. This ability to completely produce cells seemingly out of nowhere is how it's able to grow as fast without the addition of biomass from humans. Sounds pretty insane, right? Well, according to my boy Einstein, he did say that matter and energy were related to one another, so if energy is available for the cell to operate, it can continue to grow and produce new matter. The corruption, in some capacity, also still registers as human. As mentioned in logs, it's said to be 70% human, with the other 30% comprising pets, microorganisms, your teachers, your friends, and other necromorph bacteria itself. Not only is it capable of forming new necromorphs to send into the fray, but it is also capable of repairing fallen necromorphs. Now, when you take down a necromorph on the Ishimura, it's possible that you could continue finding new necromorphs all throughout, but considering that giant mass of flesh on the side of the ship that really is human, I really do wonder at the amount of humans that were located on the Ishimura. And I know, like, oh, 1,000 people you think somebody would pick up, but I don't know, man. I would have to say, due to this, when you dismember a necromorph, it never really truly goes dark. It's just simply incapacitated. That's why you have to destroy the limbs, because it's the only way to get it to stop attacking you. If you put your arm up to its mouth, it would probably still bite you. But I would argue that a lot of necromorphs you run across on the ship or even on Titan Station, you've probably seen before, and they have been reformed. With this ability for the corruption to do this, this means that you don't really end up finishing off your enemies. You just sort of get them to leave you alone for a little while you go and punch a Ubermorph for 2.5 hours. The corruption is often a threat that goes unnoticed until it's much too late. When this rapidly producing cancer begins to spread across any structure, it won't be too long before not only altered humans arrive, but its own defense mechanisms, specifically the Cysts and the Nest, as well as the Wall Guardians. Now, I won't rehash out the Wall Guardians, as I have an entire video dedicated to that topic, which I'll post in a card at the end of this, but the Cysts and the Nests are fairly interesting if you stop and look at what they are and where they're located. So, what are they? Well, some are easier to spot than others, but let's start with the Cyst. The Cyst appears to be a fireable orb sent out to specifically guard an area. Honestly, we all know what it looks like, but what is the purpose of this specific creature? Well, much like the Wall Guardians, they serve as a denial of access to an area. When a person gets too close despite the lack of eyes or assumed sensory organs, they are able to detonate the organic sac that contains enough concussive force to blow people back in rig armor or completely dismember them in case they're not wearing any protection at all. So this raises the question, how are they able to do this? It would appear as though the corruption to a certain extent knows you are there. Because of this, there might be some network in place that could take in traffic information. Areas highly visited or stomped through at one point or another must have led to this adaptation. The cells located in the corruption were able to feel pressure sent out by human feet and then would form these pustules in an effort to convert more humans to Team Necromorph. This could also be why we see in certain areas the corruption has formed these mechanisms, whereas in others, there's nothing but meaty walls. When a cyst fires its orb at you, have you really gotten a good look at it? Well, interestingly, it seems that the bacteria that's located in the corruption may seem to favor amassing within the neural tissues of the body for a few reasons. The part of the cyst that actually does the detonating looks a lot like a human brain with a massively inflamed cerebellum at its base. The three tendrils at the bottom would be a piece of the spinal cord and presumably the brainstem. Why might this be a brain rather than just a random piece of flesh? Well, if you look at stasis or you catch these things via kinesis, it will struggle to get free as if it has a mind of its own. And this could quite possibly be because it actually does have a mind of its own. Any human who fell in this area may have lost their head in the process, and during the breakdown phase, the skull was left. This cyst on the floor could in theory be that skull with the brain still in its case. The facial muscles and neck muscles have fused to the corruption and contract to fire the brain out of this person, which is just god-awfully horrible. The bacteria, as we know, is somewhat energetic in its release as it continues to fill up this area with methanol, and as such, it is able to detonate upon hitting anything. We also know that it's able to recombine structures, which means after a short while, a new brain is formed and is ready to be projected into its environment. Now, what if you are in 0G with a fairly large area to patrol? The corruption also seemingly possesses an understanding of this issue as well, and for this, we refer to her as a nest. A nest is formed when a female host with another body is fused onto her back. This has given her enough biomass to grow to the size that she is. Both her arms have become bulbous sacs capable of producing these energetic pustules. A third arm has grown out of her back, which may be the remnants of whoever's body that she originally fused with. Here we can actually start to see why these may be brains. On top of these orbs, representing the tails, actually appears to be the vertebrae of a person, albeit changed to be more sharp. This nest creature is able to throw these orbs, and on their own, they can navigate the 0G, changing trajectory somewhat, indicating that they may have use of gas jets in their body that can aid in the movement and turning, rather than just flying in a straight line, which should happen in 0G environments. The purpose of the larger creature may be due to actual usage of craft in this area. Instead of relying on like pressure from the feet when you're standing on the corruption, they have adapted to this area to sense vibrations in the air. The pustules fired may be strong enough to actually damage ships, and are certainly strong enough to blow a person apart should you get too close. So with the nest being the size that it is, let me know in the comments if you'd like a more comprehensive breakdown of it, because honestly, I probably will do it anyways, because, well, it saddens me greatly, but we're actually starting to run out of Dead Space stuff. Really looking forward to negative atmosphere at this point. So the corruption serves as an environment changer, and as a way to repair and shape necromorphs who have fallen in the field, or who have yet to exist. Without the corruption, the invasion would likely fail due to the inability of bodies to repair themselves, or for the sickness to spread as far and as fast. But I gotta tell you, there's definitely a lot more going on with this substance than just mere leftovers of humanity. The corruption does seemingly have one major weakness, however: water. Much like my video over the flesh in Novosibirsk concerning Metro Exodus, it seems that the corruption is not that much different. It has an issue existing under the water for many of the same reasons mentioned in the Metro video. Introduction of water may make it more difficult for the corruption to maintain cohesion within the cells and inhibit methanol production. Because of this, it will grow above the water line and not descend into it. It should be noted, however, that any puddles formed from its own fluid do not have the same effect, and it is able to stay existing in these presumed bodily fluids. So I want to thank you guys for watching if you've made it this far, and I hope you enjoyed my video over the corruption. If you did, leaving a like helps, and subbing is a great way to keep up with the channel. On my second channel, I posted a video over the parasite toxoplasmosis and its mind-controlling elements. I'll link that in the pinned comment. I will also drop my Twitter, Discord, and Patreon links in the description if you'd like to help out the channel. And I would also like to thank a few of my patrons. First, we got our standards, It's Not a Spoon, and Laffy No Skill. Thank you guys for your amazing patronage. Next up, our scientists are Cable, Freedom Units 44, Skilt, and Trey Windenall. And to the rest of my patrons, I want to thank you guys as well. You guys are awesome, and it is definitely appreciated. All right, so that does it for me. Go check out that toxoplasmosis episode if that interests you, and I will see y'all in the next one.